Hi there, I'm Lisa Taylor, and welcome to Choose to Be You. If you are a member of our community, you know very well that I am a firm believer in the fact that we need to courageously choose to be who God made us to be. We need to courageously step into that authentic place of our true being. So many people in the world are struggling with being happy, feeling fulfilled, finding life purpose. And science shows that it comes down to, do you really know who you are? Do you really know what you want? Well, over my life, I have struggled mightily with these questions, as we all do. And I've come up with 3 simple steps to get to this level of clarity. Getting clear about who you are and what you want, being consistent in a daily practice that helps you get to that clarity, and then courageously going out and contributing your true authentic self to the world, because that's what's needed. The world has need of you being you. Well, recently I did a 5-hour live event and I invited 9 global thought leaders to the table to talk about this very subject, choose to be you, and courageously choosing to be who God made us to be. So I welcome you to listen to these interviews. I'm bringing them to you one by one. So let's now begin with the next introduction.
A revolutionary new way to address diversity and inclusion through FRAME, the Foster Russell Alliance for Meaningful Expression. She leads workshops to cultivate personal growth and expose the pitfalls of negative internal dialogues, which I know we all have, that act as obstacles for living our best life. She promotes true inclusion and belonging, as well as wellness and self-care. And she is Karith Foster, author of You Can Be Perfect or You Can Be Happy. But you can't have both. Hi, Karith.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here on a Saturday, right?
Listen, what a treat. We hit the farmer's market early and I'm like, I gotta get home. I gotta do
I forgot about the farmer's market. Oh, well, we won't have vegetables this week.
No, it's all good.
Oh, well,
it's all, you'll find them somewhere.
I'll go buy them at the grocery. So how are you?
I'm well. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you for being here. So tell me a little bit about your book.
Sure.
You can be perfect or you can be happy, but you can't be both.
Well, here's the thing. Perfection is a lie. I'm just gonna throw it out there and ruin the book for everyone. You can be perfect. I know it sounds like a choice. You can't. Because there's no such thing as perfection, which is actually, it should be a huge sigh of relief for everyone. This idea that we've been trying to be these perfect beings in so many areas of our life. And that was actually, what really struck me when a friend of mine said that phrase to me. I just had my first daughter. I was struggling with motherhood and some events that had unfolded after the birth that had me just beating myself up terribly. And she said, look, Karith, you can be happy or you can be perfect. I choose happy. But I may have flipped the script a little bit, but I thought about it for years afterwards. You can be perfect or you can be happy. And as I said, I realized how much of my life I had spent trying to be the perfect daughter, the perfect friend, the perfect student, the perfect intern, the perfect girlfriend, and that transferred to my adult life as the perfect employee, the perfect boss. And what did that really cost me? And it was time. It was certainly money in some instances. It was energy. It was opportunities because, oh, well, I'm not, perfect enough for this. I don't have all the right qualifications. So I didn't apply myself. And it cost me happiness. So happiness is a choice. It's different for each and every one of us. The caveat, though, to choosing happiness is that it's not a constant. And that's okay too, because it's not supposed to be a constant. We're not supposed to be on all the time. We're not supposed to be high all the time. It's something that we appreciate when we have it. And when it, comes down a little bit in our lives, we know that there's an opportunity for it to come back. I like to say it's almost like watching a heart monitor, right? Or an EKG. Mm-hmm. See that line going up and down. Like, what better representation is there of life, literally? And it's the same with happiness. You get your highs, you got your lows. But the good news is you always come back. But when you're in the highs, you enjoy it. The only time you're in trouble is when you got that straight line, honey.
I know, but you know what I love about that analogy? And I only sort of thought of this recently. When you look at the heart thing, it's like up really high and down really low. It's like a big up and a little low, a big up and a little low. So what, if that's a representation of our joy and our sadness, kind of, it's like the highs are definitely bigger than the lows. So that's kind of gives me hope and says like, no, I don't want to be flatlined, but the ups tend to be a little bigger than the downs for most of us. And if it's not that way, what do you do?
Well, if it's not that way, so that's what I call getting back to the basics. And that's really
Okay.
what the book is about. And the basics is an acronym for multiple modules that I teach, whether it's in a workshop or even through the book or my speaking programs. And I'll give you like a couple of them. The first B is be kind. You know, I think, there's this really great book. It's old. It's like worldwide bestseller. And there's a line in it that says, love thy neighbor as thyself.
Huh. I've heard that somewhere
Can't see
before.
that, right?
It sounds really familiar.
But how many people are really loving themselves, when it comes down to it? Like, we know to be kind to somebody else, and a lot of people will pay it forward and they'll buy the cup of coffee ahead at the coffee counter, wherever they go. But, what about doing that to yourself? How are we missing out on being kind to ourselves? Most people wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is look in the mirror and think or actually say something out loud that would be terribly insulting if we said it to anyone else. And if anyone said it to us, we'd be gobsmacked. Yet we have no problem putting that energy on us.
So being kind, that whole idea of actually seeing the good in yourself, that very basic first step from the very first guest we talked to all the way up through to you now. And I think every single guest we have on today, the very first step so many times is just seeing the good that's already within you.
Yeah.
Just see it, see what's good about you and claim it, state it and claim it and amplify it and move on. So that's always seems to be kind of, let's start at this foundation and build from there. At least recognize that there's goodness in you. That's and right. See that about yourself. And if you can't, look at your fingernails. You can grow fingernails. Well, you're not growing them, but at least they're growing, right?
Right.
Or your hair is growing, or it's like you can talk about really simple things. I can walk across the floor, or I can move something, or I can think a thought.
Without getting into the whole, making this a sex ed class, the odds, right? I mean, truly, the odds of that sperm finding that egg to make you is such a miracle. Yeah. It's such a miracle. So the fact that you exist, just that you exist, that your mere presence on this planet means that you have worth and value and purpose. That alone.
Okay, so let's go through the basics. So sure. Be kind.
So after being kind is the A, which one of my favorite A's is really ask. Ask for help. For some reason, we have this idea that asking for help is us showing our weakness, when nothing could be further from the truth. First of all, it takes strength and courage to do that. But secondly, when you are asking for help, usually, 9 times, not more than 9 times, 9.7 times out of 10, you will get and receive help, because that's what most people do. They want to help you, especially if it's someone who's more in a more senior position or a boss or a friend. Like, people want to see other people succeed, and they, especially if there's somebody that you're working for, they realize that you're asking is your investment in making something more successful. Now, this is what is really big for me. Don't just ask for help, right? Also ask for what you want and be specific. Nobody goes into a restaurant and says, I'm hungry, to the server, bring me something. Unless you were just super.
That's a great analogy. That's really funny.
Like, a salad, blue cheese dressing on the side, no croutons, hold the walnuts. I'm definitely allergic. I get a little when Harry met Sally. Okay. I'm not gonna
little.
But you know what? Why shouldn't I? If that's what I want and that's what why shouldn't I ask for it? That's not shallow. That's not me being picky or persnickety. No, that's me saying this is what I want. And guess what? When you ask for what you want, you get it. I did that with my husband. I made a list of what I wanted and characteristics for my spouse, my partner to be.
I did the same thing.
Don't tell anybody I quoted this man, but Dr. Phil said, if you can find somebody who's got 80% of what you're looking for, you're golden. My husband was like 94%.
Well, I did a list when I was dating, and it was like pages and pages and pages. And we started, and it was like, he just appeared out of nowhere, like days later.
Yeah.
I had left off some pretty critical things off the list, and I learned the hard way. Like
Yeah.
he met the whole list. It was like, oh, I forgot this and I forgot that. It's like that ended in a complete disaster. So when you're making the list, even if it's just 80% that you need, go long. Like
Go long.
put everything on the list you could possibly want, and don't leave anything out. Go
Take
long.
your time and be specific. Yes.
Yeah.
Whether
Be
it's with
specific.
a job, a relationship, a partnership, a house. Like I just, we're in a new house that happened last May, and I made this list. I said I wanted a fireplace that went from the master bedroom into the bathroom. And that is so rare in the area that we're in. And guess what? I have a fireplace in my bedroom that I can see from my bathtub. So,
Wow.
it's possible. It's all
Well, it's
possible.
basically what Trevor was talking about. It's like when if you can imagine it, it's just energy, and then it
right.
has no choice but to manifest itself.
That's
And
right.
at some other point we can have him talk about sort of the law of attraction, because he talks about it in physics terms, and it's very different from what we hear on programs
Right.
currently. So
I loved him. He was fantastic. I'm going to sign up for what they're doing.
yeah, he's very good. So can we go through the whole of the basics, or do you want to let people read the book?
We can absolutely do that. So
Okay.
The first S, well, it stands for stop it, right? And I have a whole slew of things to stop doing. Stop judging. Stop comparing yourself. Stop, stop. My favorite one is stop obsessing over you can't do anything about.
Oh, how? No, we don't do that, Karith.
Oh,
Nobody's
yeah.
doing stop obsessing.
No.
Give us an example of something you obsess about. Give us an example.
So I will never forget. I actually was debuting this program at a major conference. Like Brene Brown was there. There was a national conference in Las Vegas, 24,000 people. I had an audience of several thousand people, and I killed it. Like it went over very well. And this is a professional crowd. It was an HR crowd, and they loved it. And I got the reviews back and the numbers, and I scored like the highest of all of the speakers there. And then I got to the meaty section, right, where people actually left their comments. I'm like, I got to hear what they're saying. And some people, oh, it changed my life. I can apply this, not just my work, but my personal life. I needed this. This was everything that I've been hoping for. And then I get to like 3 people out of 3,000 who are like, I've heard this all before. Somebody else was like, it was better. No, I obsessed for a good 4 or 5 hours over these 3 people who maybe they all had root canals that morning. You know what I mean? Like
it's like, we don't know, or they forgot to eat. I don't know.
Maybe somebody forgot to eat. Maybe they're going through divorce. Like who knows? And I let those 3 people completely negate all of the other positive things that I had coming toward me. Okay. And unfortunately, I caught myself.
Well, we're in a really good area here, because this is something that so many people deal with. And I'm sure that every single one of our viewers watching is going, oh yeah, that's me. I hear one negative thing and I just can't get it out of my head, and I play it over and over and over. Okay, so how do we stop obsessing? It's great to say we shouldn't obsess, but how?
It's like that line in Pretty Woman. You remember that movie when she's laying
in bed, of course,
and he's like telling her, how amazing she is and she's wonderful, and she says, yeah, but the bad stuff is easier to believe. And that's just our default, right? So what we have to do with that being our default is actively, consciously, almost retrain our brains. And every time we say something negative, like the first thing we look at ourselves in the morning, oh, I can't look at that cellulite. Look at those wrinkles. Look at that. You replace that with, now I've heard the number range from 5 to 17. 17 is a lot because I got stuff to do in my day. But especially when my daughters, say something like, oh, I did something badly, or I'm a bad person. I'm like, well, you know what? You're going to say 5 nice things about yourself that you do really well and that you're talented at. And that's what we have to start doing, because listen, it's like a muscle, right? You got to go to the gym, you got to strengthen it, you got to exercise, because it's not just going to magically go away. We have to put our energy toward this, but there is a way to correct and move from that being your default. So where instead of like, something goes wrong, you're one of my favorite things actually is it is an A, actually better to the basis, but ask, why is this happening for me versus to me?
Yes. Yes.
what
So
am I
things are
supposed to
happening
get
for
from
me
this?
instead of to me. Yeah. That's a
And
really
that's so
powerful thing.
powerful. It's so powerful. And it's taking yourself out of victim mode. It's not excusing anything that's happened to you that certainly anyone else has done to you, especially when you didn't have any type of control, like say as a child. But what it does allow you to do is be in your power of saying, you know what, maybe this happened for me so I could see what I could survive. So
There's
I could see
something,
how strong I am.
there's something in that. Well, there's a lot in that, I think, of taking responsibility. If you say it's happening for me instead of to me, like you say, you're getting out of victim mentality. And if you're saying it's happening for me, now I have a choice to make. I
Yes.
can choose to go with it, not go with it, take on the responsibility to make the choice, be responsible for my own choice, and not say, oh no, it's just happening because of circumstance. I have nothing to, like, I'm off the hook. It's like all of a sudden, if it's happening for me, it's like now I'm responsible, and that gives me the opportunity to shift things,
That's
right?
exactly right.
Then I have the opportunity to say, okay, if it's happening for me, if I don't like it, I have a choice to make to change it. If
That's
I
right.
say it's happening to me, then it's out of my control. Then, oh, I'm off the hook.
That's right.
Like,
And
and then I'm a victim.
exactly what this book is. I'm so glad that you said that, because
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, oh, you wrote a self-help book. I'm like, it's not really a self-help book. I mean,
No.
it's really, yes, it debuted at, number 14 on the Amazon bestseller list under personal transformations, but it's a personal responsibility book.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's a book to give you your power, because
Exactly.
we all should be standing in our power.
Okay, so if you're going to be in your power,
Yes.
then you have to know who you are. It's like we're getting right back to choose to be you, right?
Yep.
You have to know who you are in order to make the choices that you want to make that align with you. So what is your thought about that? Do you have tricks, tools, ways in?
I do. I call it the head, heart, gut check.
Okay.
Right. So, we're all thinking beings, right? We're using our brains most of the time, probably almost all of the time, more than the other parts of our body, our heart and our gut, as I said. Although every now and then the heart will speak up and the gut will.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should give them all a little bit of equal footing, right?
Yeah.
Because when something, as far as knowing yourself, right? To thine own self be true. Of course, it starts with your brain and your thoughts and how you process things. And if something that, say there's something you want to do, but it's a little scary because it's challenging. It's going out of your comfort zone. But like the thought of it, does it bring you joy and exhilaration? Or is it just so terrifying and frightening because you feel cloudy? You know what I mean? Like you feel like it's just like the swirl of almost like watching equations, like they do in the movies. Like, how am I going to figure this out?
Right. Yeah.
And then, but if there's clarity there, like, yes, I know I want to do this, then in your head, like this is the way to go. But it's the same thing with the heart. Now, I just found this out about the heart. I'm almost embarrassed to say that I just found this out, considering that it's been the basis of the work that I do. And I didn't understand why what I did worked so effectively. But our heart isn't just this muscle that pumps blood through our bodies. It's not just another organ. It is a actively thinking part of our being. Like the heart in 1991, there have been studies that show, scientific studies, like the heart has over 40,000 neuroreceptors in it. It can think independently. It can feel independently. It's like when you have your heart broken, either by a love or the death of someone, you may know in your head rationally it shouldn't have been, or they're in a better place, but your heart still hurts because it thinks and feels independently. But the heart also knows when something's right for you.
Yeah.
And the heart will, get excited, and you feel that again, you feel that exhilaration, or you can, feel like, okay, this isn't right. This doesn't sit well. I'm having palpitations. Like my heart is telling me that this isn't okay. And the same with the gut. Our gut, is a thinking organism in and of itself as well. And when something is exciting, we get those little flutters, right? And sometimes it's a little like, you almost can't even sit still. Or when something's daunting and it's not right, like you get a pit in your stomach.
Well,
And
there's a lot to be said for just that level of intuitive sense, the intuitive sense of things. there are different levels of intuition. And a lot of times with the heart and the gut, kind of the sort of basic levels of intuition, it goes against the head. And you have an intuition about something and it makes absolutely no sense to your head. And like the answer that I got, I don't know if you were on at the beginning when it told a story about hearing a voice, and it didn't really seem like an answer to my head, but my gut knew, my heart knew this was an answer. And I got up from where I was, and then it made sense 20 steps later.
Yeah.
So there are times when that intuitive sense of what is right for me, we know in our heart, in our gut, and sometimes it doesn't agree with our head. And we have to go with that intuitive hit. Trevor was just talking about that in business. Like, he will trust his intuition far more than he trusts his intellectual thinking, reasoning brain around stuff. He goes with his intuition every time because he's been proven over and over and over again. And, you know, with 7 companies at $1 billion, I would say he's probably proven it pretty well.
He's doing all right.
Yeah, he's doing okay. It's like, I'll take that.
He's figured that system out.
Yeah,
But that's
I like
exactly
the intuition thing. So I think what you're saying is absolutely true. You know, when we can tune into our heart, our gut, our intuition, that feeling state of, does this make me happy? Does this really bring me joy? Does this sync up with what I really love? And if it doesn't, say no, have the courage to say no.
I do. Well, you know, this is another thing I talk about, like being comfortable, right? You know, comfort can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And it's a bad thing when you're in a place that you know you shouldn't be, but because you're used to it, you're comfortable, comfortable.
Yep.
That's a dangerous comfortable, and that's an unhealthy comfortable.
Yeah.
Because what's on the other side is an unknown, so it's a little more scarier than what you actually know.
Yep.
But we know when we're not supposed to be in a certain relationship. We know when we're not supposed to be in a certain job.
And
or
we stay in it forever. Like, why? We
because
keep
it's comfortable.
Because we're used to it. So the unknown is scarier than the uncomfortable known.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So there's a thing that Kyle Cease talks about that we tend to focus on, and tell me if this rings true with your work as well. We tend to focus on that comfortable thing that's negative and fearing the loss of what we know, rather than hoping for the gain of something that we don't know. We don't know what the gain is going to be, so we're afraid to let go of something that we know, even if it's bad or negative or hurting us.
Absolutely. Well, what you know is safer than what you don't know, right? I mean, the other is the unknown, but that's when you have to trust that whatever else is out there is better than what you've got now.
Yeah.
And that's where faith comes in.
Yeah.
That's where faith is. That's what faith is.
So do you
wait, can I tell you something funny about Kyle?
Yes, sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it's totally okay. So Kyle and I used to do stand-up comedy together.
No way.
Yes, way.
Well, of course. And you know, Jeffrey's on right after you here, and you and Jeffrey know each other. So we'll have to have you overlap a little so you can at least say hi to each other. So you say hi. But yeah, Kyle's kind of shifted into sort of the transformational world.
Oh, yeah.
And he has some things that have been really helpful. One of the things that he talks about is when, like, if you use the word God, if you don't use the word God, just substitute something else. But like, right. God is sort of the eternal porter, like saying, "Can I take your bag? Can I take your bag?" And you're like, "No, I got my bag. I got my bag." And God's like, "Can I take your bag? Can I carry your bag for you? Can I carry your bag?" It's like, it just cracks me up. I love that. So I always have to credit Kyle because it makes me laugh every time.
That's funny.
So yeah.
So after the the asking for help and the stopping it, right? That was the stop it. Stuff you can't do anything about. The I is ignore the critics. Now I have a funny story about ignoring the critics. I have 2 little girls. One just turned 8, the other 6. And we're doing the homeschooling thing. We were going to do it anyway, but COVID just kind of pushed us, it was that little boot from the universe going, you know,
you're going to do that.
So we have full days in our house. We have full days, and we try to stay off the electronics as much as possible. But I'm like, it's dinner time. I'm like, they said, "Can we watch TV?" I said, "Sure, go ahead." So I hear the older one say to the younger one, "Hey, let's watch something with famous people." And the little one goes, "Yeah, rich and famous people." And the 8-year-old goes, "Sissy, everybody who's on TV is rich and famous." Now, I've been on TV more than I've watched it in the past 2 years. And I said, "Well, Mommy's on TV. Am I rich and famous?" And the older one goes, "I'm sorry, are you on Muppets Now?" To which I had to say, no, I'm not.
I'm not.
She goes, well, then I'm sorry. So I got checked by an 8-year-old because I'm not famous enough to be on the Muppets.
You're not on the Muppets, so you didn't make it.
You know,
didn't make the cut.
So I'm
Sorry,
like, okay, my little critic. But you know, the real truth is we do have critics and we have to ignore them. That is the I. Ignore the real critics. Ignore the people who are the haters, the people who are really typically jealous, who see you doing something they want to be doing, but they don't have the cojones to do it themselves. Now, there are times when the critics can be people who love you and they're just scared for you. But again, they're living in their fear and you shouldn't live in their fear.
Right. That's a really good point. They're living in their fear. You should live in their fear. I really like that.
Yeah.
Pausing and letting that sink in.
Yes.
Because how many times do we listen to them because they're afraid for us rather than listening to our own sense of self and going forward with our own strength and knowing who we are and choosing that rather than choosing their opinion when their opinion doesn't matter. And like you mentioned Brene Brown, where she talks about, like, I'm not going to listen to anybody who's up in the cheap seats criticizing. If they're not in the arena, I'm not interested in your opinion. You're not in there doing it. You're not in there fighting the battle. Like, don't talk to me. So did we get to the end of your?
No, so we're at the I. So the C it's a small C, which was comfort be damned, which we kind of covered already.
Yes.
Right? Comfort be damned, especially if it's the bad comfort, you know, like there's good comfort sitting in front of a fire when it's fall and with a cup of cocoa and a good book.
Yes.
And then they're staying in a bad relationship because it's the relationship you know.
Right.
After that is the other S, and that is say yes. That's where that faith comes in. Say yes to the stuff that scares you, but you know you want it because your heart, your head, your gut are saying we got to do this. But it is unknown, so that's where that faith has to step in. You know, when I was fully in my comedy career,
I was just going to ask you about that. Like, how much?
It's comedy's like the mafia. You try to leave, and it just pulls you back in.
Yeah.
So I've done some things. I do more speaking, like that's what. But everything I do is fun and funny because nobody wants to be lectured at. You know, this should be an experience. You know, it should always be engaging, whether we're talking about diversity and inclusion or wellness and self-care. Like we should be just wanting to be there and hearing what is being said so we absorb it better. But when I was in the throes of my comedy career, I was young. I was a young comic. I've been doing it 22 years. I guess I started when I was 5. So no, I didn't start.
I was going to say, what? You were very funny as a child.
Yeah, I was hysterical. No, so I had the opportunity to do Larry the Cable Guy's roast for Comedy Central. But I'd only been in my stand-up probably about 5.5 years. And the rule of thumb with stand-up comics, at least back in the day when I started, was 7 years. It takes 7 years to find your voice. And I hemmed and hawed, and I was just so nervous that I was going to have to write all this material. I was going to be on this very public national forum as this young comic. And I asked people who were more my senior, you know, we've been doing it 15 years. Now looking back, they were probably, you know, jealous that I was getting this opportunity. And they'd been in the trenches for so long, and you know, and they're like, you know, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and I believed them, and I turned it down.
Oh my gosh!
The management I had at the time, trust me, I know I could be on the 5th season of my sitcom and living in Bel Air right now. But you know what? Well, so this is what happened. I turned it down. I didn't feel good, but I'm like, you know what? Again, my head rationalizing, that was the best thing you could have done for yourself in your career. I know it doesn't feel good now, but you did the right thing. A couple years later, I see a friend, another comic, post on social media that they got this job writing for Comedy Central. I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, anytime I see anybody in comedy do well, I am thrilled because it's such a hard business. And I said, what show are you writing for? He goes, well, it's not really a show. I said, oh. He goes, yeah, I'm writing for the roast. I go, I'm sorry, you're what? You're writing for the what? He goes, the roast. And that's when it hit me, right? Like a ton of bricks. Like, I wouldn't have been alone. If I had just said yes, and I would have had the support. And that is what happens when you say yes. God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, always steps up to meet you. The first step is you have to say yes. You will get the materials, you will get the resources, you will get the support, the people, whatever it is that you need, but you have to say yes first.
So that's like pivotal, because if you say yes to who you are, then things start coming into your life that align with who you are, then you can choose to say yes to those things. And then it all like snowballs.
Amen.
But you
Amen.
have to say yes to who you are before you can even say yes to the thing on the outside. Like saying yes to comedy. I wish we had more time because I want to hear, like, how did you choose comedy in the first place? Like, how did
Comedy
tell us,
chose me.
Comedy chose
me.
you.
Yeah, I'm a recovered journalist. I wanted to. I was supposed to be this beacon of light. I was supposed to be the next Connie Chung and Oprah. And
oh my gosh,
job out of college was working for The View because I thought, who better to have as a boss than Barbara Walters?
That's right.
And I got there and I saw what it was about and I saw behind the scenes and I'm like, that's not who I am. I want to be able to tell the whole truth and be authentic. And you know, I just really was I was dismayed with what I saw in the media. And it's just gotten worse since, you know, in the 20 years since.
Do you have, I think I remember you said you had something that you wanted to offer our audience. Was it something you do, don't you?
It's a perfectionism assessment.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And yeah,
I haven't taken it yet, but I want to take that.
Fun kind of quiz. And it's, yeah. And then you'll receive a video response afterwards, just telling you where you are on the spectrum and your strengths and weaknesses. And really, like, the idea is to focus on your strengths so you can utilize that part of yourself that is a perfectionist to excel, to go further.
Awesome. All right, Karith, I don't want you to get off yet because I want to bring Jeffrey on so that you guys can actually have a chance to when's the last time you saw Jeffrey?
Well, I haven't been in New York in a while, so I've been traveling. So it's probably been a
while. It's probably been a while. All right, so Rhonda, can you bring Jeffrey on before I even introduce him? There he is.
Hi, honey.
So these two know each other, so we're gonna let them talk a little.
Well, how are you? I love seeing you. I love seeing you sitting upright and looking amazing.
Thanks so much, and I love seeing you too, and I love seeing your pictures with the girls. They're so adorable.
Thank you.
Adorable. And they look just like you. That's amazing.
They're my mini-me's. I know. My husband had, like, he was just like a sperm donor.
You know, it's so funny. And I recently came across some fun pictures of us. In 2008, I was one of the only white guys that was ever honored for Black History Month. And Karith and Patrice O'Neill and Dante Nero, all my friends, they came out to support me at Hunter College when I got this award, me and Danny Simmons. And it was a very special moment. And I just came across those pictures recently of you and I.
To me.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. Yeah,
Thank you, my love.
Great. So great to see you today and hear all the things that you're saying that resonate so perfectly with all the things that I'm about, you know, and that I do in my books and everything else. Fantastic.
Really, we gravitate toward each other. Great people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to put myself in that loop too.
That's why we're here. Right?
That's why we're here.
Lisa,
Karith, thank you so much.
I
really appreciate your being here. Thank you for taking time out on your Saturday, and I bless you for all the work you're doing in the world. It's so needed, and doing it with humor. It really is, like, you are my heart. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Jeffrey, you're going to have to pause while I do your intro. Oh my goodness. So if you are interested in, I want to just reiterate the sort of offer that I'm giving, because everybody else is sort of offering things. I feel like, you know what, I really want to offer something. And I have several programs. One is called Choose to Be You, which this show is named after. One is called See You to Be You. And those are both kind of programs. One is a 2-session program. One is a 7-session program, which can go on 7 weeks, depending on how many people are involved in it. And one is called Morning Metaphys, which is a daily, every morning for 15 minutes, where I just meditate and pray, and then I show up and I just let the spirit move me, and I say whatever is on my heart that morning to whoever is showing up. And it is a monthly thing that I have some people in there who've been there for almost a year. So if you're interested in any of these things, please feel free to go to lisataylorcs.com and use the code, because you've shown up here. This is your bonus. Use the code CHOOSE-ME, and you will get 40% off whatever you choose on that website. So there's also the potential for a healing session or healing treatment, or you can just go and kind of explore what's on the website. But if you have made the choice to be here, I want to honor that, because knowing that you are who you are and that there's no one else like you on the planet means that you taking the time to do this and to honor trying to be more clear about who you are and then going out and expressing that means the planet's going to be a better place because you are being who you are. And so I just want to say thank you to those of you who have shown up and are here and give you a little reward for that, because I would love to have you join me as well. It has been a joy and a pleasure to be in this seat and to be able to bring you these amazing people. I am so grateful for this panel of guests that we've had on today. And I really thank you for being here. And thank you for choosing to be who you are, because the world has need of you. So much love to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I am Lisa Taylor, and this is Choose to Be You. We are bringing you this series of interviews that we did during a live event when I invited 9 global thought leaders to the table to talk about this subject. So please do watch for the other ones in the series. They are posted here on YouTube and you can watch them all. Be in touch with me at lisataylorcs.com if you would like to know more. And I look forward to your being a member of this community. We are mighty and we are strong and we are changing the world. If you can see who you are, you can be who you are. And the world has need of you being authentically who you are meant to be. So much love to you, and do join us next time. Thanks for being here.